This is your spoiler warning for Joker. If you have yet to see Joker, then please do not continue watching this video. With that established, let us get discussing. So, Joker is out now, and I have seen it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you've seen any reviews for Joker, then the kinds of things you're going to hear here are not going to be particularly unique, because so much of what's good about this movie is recognizably great about this movie. Joaquin Phoenix is incredibly fantastic in the part of the Joker. He might have given the best Joker performance in this movie, and I know that's saying something, and I can't say that definitively, but I will say he may have given the best Joker performance. He was just utterly fantastic, utterly brilliant in this role. And personally, I was somewhat apprehensive about this movie for certain reasons, but I did know that I really wanted to like it. This is a movie that I really wanted to like, and I didn't know for sure that I was going to. The thing is, you know, the Joker is absolutely a villain, and putting him as the main character in a movie just might not end that well. It might turn out that it's too hard to make this character the main character of every movie, but that was not the case, because they did it brilliantly. And I have heard comparisons to Taxi Driver from this movie, and those comparisons are absolutely valid, because it does borrow elements from Taxi Driver. It is that kind of a movie. The approach is different. It is approached differently, and it feels different than Taxi Driver, but there are certain elements in here, certain story beats that do follow Taxi Driver, and that's fair enough. And if that bothers you, that's totally fine. It doesn't particularly bother me, though, so that's where I stand on it. And yeah, like I said, Joaquin Phoenix is great in this. I think it's paced really well. This story moves through, and I was just watching, and then all of a sudden it was over, and I never ever felt the runtime. It just flowed so seamlessly. It was fantastic, and there's so many great sequences throughout, so many things that happen. And if we're talking, because we are talking spoilers, if we're talking about the first time that the Joker or Arthur Fleck kills people, then, you know, it's on the subway, right? Or maybe it was a train. I can't quite recall. No, it was definitely a subway. And then these three people are kind of harassing this woman, and already that's cause to, you know, that is already enough cause to stop them. Although that is clearly not exactly where his motivation is lying. But then he distracts them by laughing, and she leaves, and then they start beating him up. And at first, it was kind of like, okay, this is helping me to feel sorry for him, but it does kind of feel like these are just cliched characters, you know, just like these people that are just like so awful and just show up for a tiny bit, like, you know, those bullies, like the bullies in It or something like that. Just like, oh yeah, they're not like real characters, and it's true that they aren't real characters. I mean, they're barely on screen, so that slightly bothered me, but I was able to roll with it, and I really enjoyed what was going on there. And we see them beat him up, and then he pulls out his gun and he kills two of them and wounds the third one, all in self-defense. And that's what's so interesting is that you can like what he did there, arguably, I'm gonna argue this, was not wrong whatsoever. He just killed those two people. Where it goes a little too far is when he kills the third one, because that person was running away. So you can totally argue that one was too far, and in fact, I would agree that one was too far. But those first two people, he was just defending himself. I mean, he had a gun, he was able to shoot them, and boom, self-defense. So arguably, that's what happened there. But where you can tell it's not from the right place is how he clearly enjoys it. And as an audience member, I enjoyed it too, and that's what's messed up, you know? It's very, very interesting. I say messed up in the best possible way. This movie is messed up absolutely in the best way. And as I'm sure you've heard people say, because I've seen plenty of reviews on this, I kind of wish I hadn't, just because then I wouldn't have really known what people were already talking about, but it's kind of the stuff I want to talk about too. So at least I know that. But if you've seen any reviews, then you know, or you've seen the movie, then you know that this movie is really talking about this, how, you know, I'm gonna say it, how society can kind of create these people. And I know there's tons of jokes going around about society and stuff. So even just saying the word, I feel almost discredits my review. But it doesn't actually, because it's something I need to talk about. So it's very interesting how we can kind of, through our system, create somebody like this by not giving them what they need and by just messing them over in this way. And that's super interesting. And there's just too much for me to talk about in this movie, just because there's so much that happens and it all flows really well. And like I said, Joaquin Phoenix does a great job. He portrays the character really well, and there's all of these things that happen to him, and every single time he kills someone, it kind of gets progressively more messed up, I think. Actually, I can't remember the order of the sequence of events. I can't remember if he killed the person that he used to work for in his apartment before or after he killed his mother. I think it was after. But everybody that he hurts, did something bad. Not, these aren't good people. Not all of them deserved to die necessarily. Arguably, none of them did. I'm not gonna argue about that though. But none of these people were good. He let the other person that he worked for, he let that person go. And that was a really tense sequence when he reached for the lock and he couldn't get it. That was hard to watch. And the most heartbreaking moment in this whole movie, and it's got some heartbreaking moments, is when the Joker is trying to do stand-up. When Arthur's trying to do stand-up. And it's so heartbreaking just seeing him try, and it takes him forever just to try to get that first joke out, and it's really hard to watch. And also, the revelation that the person who lived down the hall from him was not actually with him that whole time. He'd only just met her once or twice. That was a well-played revelation. It didn't stay on it too much. It didn't overmake its point. I think it made it just enough it gave you a couple of clues, and then it showed you what was happening. And it didn't bash it over your head. And I thought that was well handled. And the ending is really well handled. Like the last 20 minutes or so of this movie are just fantastic when he goes on the talk show, and then we find that he doesn't actually kill himself. He actually kills Robert De Niro's character. I think his name was Murray. Which was a very interesting thing that I knew could happen. I wasn't entirely sure. I thought maybe he would kill Murray and then kill himself. Maybe he would kill himself. Maybe I wasn't entirely sure how it was going to go down. But there's only so many possibilities for that sequence of events. But that was one of them. And honestly, it was a little weird seeing Robert De Niro get shot. It was kind of surreal, because I haven't seen a lot of movies with Robert De Niro. I've seen a handful, but he hasn't died in any of them. And don't tell me about movies that he does die in if you have seen them, because, like I said, I haven't seen them. This is the only one I've seen where he dies in, so do not bring up those movies. Otherwise, I will know he dies in them. Thank you in advance. That was really well handled, and then immediately he doesn't escape that, because how could you? But then he's released for a brief moment, and he sees what he spawned, and that was a very interesting thing to showcase, was him being able to see what he had created through this revolution. That I thought was handled really well. And then the final scene where he's laughing to the person, and then she asks what he's laughing about, and he says, "You wouldn't get it." And that's a fantastic line that showcases the kind of person that he is. There was a scene earlier where he's just laughing at all of the wrong parts. It's just really well handled. There is one thing I'm still not sure how I feel about, and like I said, I haven't touched on everything, but there's a lot in this movie. One thing I'm not entirely sure how I feel about has to be the scene where it shows that someone he inspired killed Bruce Wayne's parents. And the reason I'm not sure how I feel about that is because we've seen that so many times. You know how many times I've seen that sequence? I don't know. So many times. It's like, why do I have to see this exact same thing again? Was that really necessary? But the one thing that I do like about it is that it makes it a little bit different than what we've seen before, because he inspired that. But at the same time, I don't think it was entirely necessary. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure how I feel about it. It wasn't really bad. It wasn't really good. I'm just not entirely sure. But I do know that I really like the ending, and I really like this whole movie. Overall, I thought that Joker was really great. It's super engaging. It's really quite a tragic movie, and Joaquin Phoenix portrays Arthur Fleck perfectly, and he also portrays Joker perfectly, and it's just fantastic to watch. And this movie goes by in just a moment, and it's gone, and it's so well paced. Everything's handled well, lots of great revelations, and just a really messed up movie in the best way possible that has a decent amount to say. Not stuff that hasn't been said before, but a decent amount to say. And yeah, I just think this movie is really well handled, really well just made by everyone who was involved. So props to everyone. So yeah, Joker is a great movie, and I'm going to give it a rating of 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, that's that. Joker. Yeah, I didn't quite get to everything, but I got to enough. I got to what I wanted to talk about, really. And yeah, this is a really solid movie. I really dug it. More than I was expected to, but about as much as I wanted to, which is great. So yeah, what did you think about this movie? I hope you've seen it, because it was a spoiler review. So be sure to let me know down below. I will be happy to discuss this movie with you. Yeah, I'm just curious. This movie is getting a lot of controversy for no good reason, really, just because it's a comic book movie, so it'll do better if you can be controversial about it, I guess. So that's something, but whatever. Anyway, that's all about that. And yeah, sorry if the audio is a little bit different. You might be able to tell that I'm recording this in a car, so I don't know how well that's going to show up. You're probably going to hear sounds around me. I'm in a parking lot. People are driving by and honking and stuff. You might hear the occasional that thing. So sorry about that. But yeah, that's about all. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to check out any of my other videos. I have other movie reviews, lots of Doctor Who reviews, ranking videos, all that sort of thing. If not, that's totally cool. I just appreciate your time here today. And with that said, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and have a lovely week.